Okay, today our lesson is review of percent of change. This is going to be a little bit different. We're going to go back to a proportion on this one. It's going to require two steps, basically. One is going to be a subtraction step, and after we set up a proportion, we're going to be cross multiplying. So your first goal is to find the difference. That's easy for me because when I think of change at a store, I'm always thinking that I'm going to have to do a little bit of subtraction in my head. You know, if it's 52 cents for an item, I'm going to get 48 cents back um, from the store, from the cashier. That's because I've done some subtraction. The confusing thing for some students is what number goes on the bottom. That's always going to be an original amount. Even if it's a smaller number, goes on the bottom. It's whatever you started off with. So find a difference. The numerator is going to be the difference, and the original amount is going to be on the bottom. Your variable on these questions are always going to be right above the 100. So I'll give you an example. The first one. We're going to find the percent of change for $70 to $90. Maybe something originally is 70 and then you come back a couple weeks later and it's 90. One of the first things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do a little bit of side work on the side here. Is we're going to go with 90, and this could be done mental math here obviously, is we're going to subtract 70. You should get an answer of 20. So that's the first thing I've done is I've done the subtraction. Now I kind of keep that 20 in mind here, and I go back to this right here where it says the amount of change over the original amount, percent of change over 100. I'm going to start off with the easiest part. Put 100 at the bottom. It doesn't have to go at the bottom right, but well, I just happen to like to put it there. I'm going to put an X on top of it. That's going to be my answer when I'm done in a moment here. My amount of change is this answer that I just got a moment ago, which is 20. So that goes on top. My original amount, all right, real quick decision. Is it going to be the 90 or 70? Well, we'll go back here. Started off with the 70. So something that you might want to get in the habit of is thinking about what did I start off with? I started off with a 70. So that number goes on the bottom. I no longer need the 90. If you have this part set up, you should not have any difficulty with it because that's the hardest part right there. So what I'd like you to do is to cross multiply, and you should have basically 2,000. I'm multiplying 100 times 20, and you should have that equal to 70 times your x. At this point, you should know to divide by 70. You're going to get an answer, and this answer is going to have to be rounded to the nearest hundreds. On your calculator, you should have 28 and 57 hundredths percent. So there was an increase in the price of about 28%. That's the markup on this particular item in that particular week. You subtract it, you put that as the numerator on top, that's the amount of change, and the original amount goes on the bottom. Then you cross multiply and you should get that answer. What I'd like you to attempt is I'd like you to attempt the second question right here, is the percent of change for $3.35 to $4.25. You might want to hit pause because I'm about to go over the answer and do a little bit of work on the side here. Okay, so on this one right here, I want to show you a couple of the answers that could be the possibility. You might want to think about, okay, do I have one of these answers? And if so, which one is right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the difference between what I started off with and what I ended up with. Now, if I do it this way, I'm going to be getting a negative answer. So what a lot of times I will do is I'll put the larger number on top, small number right below it, and then I'm going to subtract it. And I'm going to just ignore the negative and the positive part because I know that this is going to be an increase because we're going up here. What I'll find is that the minimum wage price right here, this is going to show my age, was a change of 90 cents. When I first started working, it was $3.35. A couple of years later, it was $4.25. So minimum wage went up 90 cents at that point. So how do I set up the problem? Just drag in the 100. My percentage change is going to go on top. I don't happen to know what it is off the top of my head, so I'm going to put an X right here. My original amount, top, bottom, I believe it goes on the bottom, and then my amount of change goes on top. So let's see, what did I start off with? I started off with $3.35, so that's going to go on the bottom. So I'm going to use this number. I do not need to use this number right here. I'm going to use the 90 cents. So I've got my amount of change over the original amount. Now all I have to do is cross multiply. When I cross multiply, I'm going to get 90 is equal to 3.35x, or 3 and 3500ths x. What we're going to do is we're going to do division by the number that's next to the variable. That should be pretty easy for us at this point. And we should get one of these answers. And the nice thing is it's already going to be in a percentage for us. So I'm going to get x equals, hopefully one of these answers up here. So I check on my calculator, we get 90 divided by $3.35, and I get 28.86567, a whole bunch of other numbers. So what you'll realize is when I round this, that I get an answer number 3. So subtraction, original amount, cross multiplication, then you get one of the answers. If you need another practice, you're going to find out a little too much about me. You're going to find out that I graduated high school at 128 pounds, and by my freshman year, I weighed 145 pounds. No, I didn't need too many Twinkies or ho-hos. Stopped running, started lifting weights. That's something that some of the changes you guys might go through. And then, no, I did not have a growth spurt, so can't use that as an excuse. So if I'm going to do this a little bit faster, I'm going to put 100 here, percentage change on top. A variable goes top here. My change, which I did in my head, 17. That's going to go on the top here. Some of them are going to be easy enough. You can do mental math. My original amount, was it 145? Nope, 128. So this is the original amount, goes on the bottom. I do my cross multiplication. I'm going to get 1,700 is equal to 128x. And then with my calculator, I'm going to take 1,700 and I'm going to divide by 128. At that point, should get an answer of 13 and 2800ths. Now, some of you might start keeping track of your weight, some might keep track of your height, and you're going to find out how much percent of change you've changed in the past couple of years, especially in middle school years and the high school years. Your weight and your height might fluctuate quite a bit. So all you have to do, subtract 128 from 145, and you're going to get 17. You put that over the original, and you cross multiply, and then you'll be able to find a percent of change. One thing I have not mentioned is this was an increase. This one was an increase also, and this was an increase. So you can also have decrease. The only difference in the process is you just have to write the words at the end here. As some of you might say decrease, if it was a decrease, but in this example is you say it's an increase, and you're done. Some students will even find a nice little shortcut, and they might do like an arrow here, might make it kind of thick, and whatever their favorite color is, they might draw an arrow up. That's a shorthand for it. Good luck with it. And the key thing that you just got to remember is find a difference and cross multiply this amount of change over original amount, and you should do awesome.